In 1985, 12 parents didn't know that they could parent their own children on what to watch, sat in a circle at the Christian Church Day School in Manhattan to voice their issues with television shows being aimed for kids. They called this meeting the He-Man Workshop. I'm worried about the one-dimension characters in the He-Man TV show, said a father of a child around the age of 4. Why can't all the powerful heroes like He-Man have a sense of humor also? He asked the group. But it seems the father had only been watching his child watch the show and didn't watch the show himself. If he had, he would have found within minutes, if not seconds, that the now classic cartoon series had a lot of humor from He-Man and others.
Boy, did that hurt.
Silence, you furry fool! I've had it with your whining and bumbling.
Christmas 1985 was coming up, and parents were heading to the stores to buy kids merchandise from He-Man and other television shows that their kids loved. However, one show had parents upset, and it had no toys yet, and the promised cartoon series had not even aired. The gun-toting Green Beret John Rambo was coming from his big screen R-rated hit to a new half-hour animated cartoon series aimed at kids. Just the news of this show, plus its planned toy line, upset some parents, like those 12 that had gathered at the event at the Christ United Methodist Church on Park Avenue. As a parent, I find this offensive, said Maddie Freeman, a development psychologist at the day school. The Rambo cartoon show would not start for about 6 more months, with the Clico action figure line hitting stores about the same time. But for many parents, their mind was made up on what harm this show and its toy line would do to the kids. This was a cartoon based on an R-rated movie. Did it really belong as a kids' cartoon series? The movie was a massive hit, and Rambo had become one of the most iconic characters of 1985 almost overnight. Kids, parents, even people that had never seen the film knew who John Rambo was. Sure, he killed a lot of people and dropped a few F-bombs, but was he really all that bad? Rambo is a symbol of good. He is very patriotic. He stands for strength that only does good, and he undoes evil, said Amy Cashin, a spokeswoman for the production of the upcoming cartoon series.
But if freedom and justice are to survive, the only hope is with Rambo and the Force of Freedom. Fighting alongside Rambo is Colonel Troutman, the toughest CO in the Special Forces. Turbo, an electronics whiz, whose inventions keep the Force of Freedom one step ahead of Savage. Cat, she's always ready to swing into action. And the White Dragon, who, unlike his evil twin brother, uses his ninja powers only for good. The battle will be fierce. It'll be fought on the land and in the air. But with Rambo and the Force of Freedom, justice and liberty will never surrender, no matter what the odds. Rambo.
Amy Cashin went on to explain to worried parents that the cartoon series is not directly involved with the Rambo film, and that the cartoon is its own separate thing and will not be violent. Like the movie, Rambo will have giant muscles, but that's about where it ends. This Rambo is a guy that loves his nation and never looks for trouble, she told the New York Times. She did admit that the show would be a sales tool to help sell the action figures, something that was very common with TV shows in the 80s. He-Man, G.I. Joe, Transformers, almost every action figure line had a cartoon series to go along with it to help sales. I would say in the term of boys between the ages of 3 and 5, they have a national obsession for toys that they see on TV. Peg Marble, the school director, said, "Kids are uniquely vulnerable at this age," she would tell the New York Times. The parents were upset, but it wasn't just about cartoons being sold to sell toys to kids. It was the message in those cartoons. That message, according to them, was that these cartoons were telling kids that violence was the way to resolve conflict. G.I. Joe, Hasbro, Thundercats, according to them, all these cartoons would use violence to fix any problems that the characters had. The characters of the He-Man show, they are devoid of human characteristics. They have no emotion, no humor. They make kids idolize those qualities. Peggy Marble would add, showing that she really had never watched the show. In 1985, He-Man and Masters of the Universe had an average audience of almost 3 million households across the country. If her claims were true, that's a lot of kids that were being brainwashed by He-Man and his foes. On the other side of the country, in California, a mock funeral was being held for parents to bury their kids' violent toys and boycott companies that were selling those related toys. We try not to have He-Man hurt any living creatures, and the good guys always win, said the president of Film Nation, the studio behind the He-Man cartoon series, adding that He-Man does make mistakes, and he admits to them when he does, and gives children a lot of positive messages. He points out that the show has done stories on drug use, child molestation, and even gun control.
And you know what? There aren't any magic drugs either. Anytime you take one from anybody but your parents or your doctor, you're taking a very big chance. You're gambling with your health, maybe even your life.
But it seems a lot of the parents upset had only seen the show in passing and only saw the violence. Paul Cleveland, a senior vice president of marketing for Mattel, said that the criticism of He-Man was unfair. Having good guys and bad guys did not start with He-Man. Little boys have been playing that way for thousands of years. He said, and then added that He-Man is a lot less violent than past cartoons like the Roadrunner. It's not just being what's seen that's hurting the kids, said Peggy Carreran, the president of Action of Children Television. These shows are not thought up by people trying to create characters or tell a story. They're just a lone commercial to sell toys. Peggy went on to say that she was not a fan of censorship of these shows, but she was in strong favor of creating more diversity. So she was porting a bill to Congress that would force television broadcasters to air diverse child programming. The bill will require television stations to provide 7 hours a week of programming that enhanced a child's education, with 5 of the 7 hours being on weekends. But He-Man had morals and stood for good. But according to Dr. Jamon Singer, a psychiatrist at Yale University, that message was lost on smaller kids. Young kids just don't get it, and we see that in how they play with their toys. When they play with the He-Man action figures, He-Man is very aggressive, beating up his enemies with no real reason. He would tell the New York Times.
Dolts, half-wits, bunglers, brainless idiots. You couldn't even beat a motley group of gnomes.
We have heard from parents, educators, and people in the community that they're very concerned about these shows, and we need an alternative to those bad shows, said Senator Lattenberg, who was a strong supporter of the bill. These shows like He-Man is against good taste and good judgment, and the kids have no choice but to watch it, he told the New York Times, forgetting about those 2 knobs on the television. A spokesman for the National Association of Broadcasters, who represented more than 875 television stations, said they were not against the parents or the senator, but have problems with the bill. Most of us at our home receive about 9 TV channels, and some of those are educational stations. There are plenty of things a parent can watch with their kids if they feel He-Man and shows like it are doing harm, he told the New York Times. The bill would not pass in 1985, but in 1990 the Children's Television Educational Act was passed by Congress that would put registration on advertising during children's television shows and enforce the obligation to broadcasters to meet educational and informational needs for the child audience. Sometimes it's easier to meet in a group, complain to your senator, and get new laws passed than being seen as the bad guy in your kids' eyes by telling them what they can and cannot watch, or sitting down with them to explain the good and bad messages of a television show. Let's go back to 1985. That September, Mattel started its Create a Character contest for the Masters of the Universe. In this contest, kids would draw up their design for a He-Man action figure. Well, Masters of the Universe action figure. Not only would you draw up the character, you had to give him a little backstory also. You couldn't just slap some drawing and send it to him. He needed to have a cool story also. Now, the grand prize was a $100,000 scholarship. Be Mattel honorary president of toys for 1 day. That power went to my head if I won that one. But a big prize, at least for the kids. I know the parents probably like the scholarship. But what the kids really got excited about is that the character that they created would get turned into an action figure and released in the 1986 line. Just think about it. Imagine yourself in 1985. You could have created one of the He-Man action figures. I know, I say He-Man a lot. Masters of the Universe. I always call them He-Man figures. Now, I don't want anyone to get this contest confused with the local Tampa contest that was also going on.
Now, Channel 28 wants you to create your own character. It's the He-Man Create a Character Contest. Hand draw a front and back view of your character. Give it a name and send your entry to He-Man, Post Office Box 30028, Tampa, Florida. Entries will be judged on creativity, effort, and neatness.
Mattel got over 45,000 entries, but they had to narrow those 44,000 down to just 5. And then, you, the fans of the Masters of the Universe line, could vote on your favorite. The top 5 finalists were Brainwave, Compactor, Fearless Photog, Netta, and Evil Beam. That was the 5 finalists. And those 5 finalists each got $5,000. But not at one time. They got about $12,000 a year. Now the fans of the Masters of the Universe line could call in to vote who they think should be the next character to get an action figure. Who would win the contest? Well, I'll tell you who didn't win the contest. Little Cameron McCastleton. Cameron was one of the semi-finalists. Although he didn't win the grand prize, he did win the Fright Zone playset. And for not a grand prize, that's pretty grand. Out of the finalists, which one won? Well, that was an easy decision because Mattel said they were flooded with calls, and this one won by a long shot. Fearless Photog. He had a camera lens for a head, carried a reflecting shield. When Skeletor or one of his evil goons were captured on his camera head, it would paralyze them. The winner was 12-year-old Nathan Bittner, but he almost didn't get to win the contest. It seemed when the finals were announced, he did an interview with a local newspaper. There, he let it slip that his father helped him design the figure, that his father filled in some of the details. Mattel heard about this and wasn't completely happy, saying this broke the rules that only children could enter this contest. Mattel had a hard decision to make. Will they kick this boy to the curb for using his father's help? Or will they let it slide? Well, coming down to a wire, Mattel decided in the last minutes to allow Nathan's drawing to remain in the contest. So who was this 12-year-old Nathan that got to design the next He-Man action figure? Well, it seems he wasn't even a He-Man fan. He admitted in the local paper also that he never really watched He-Man. He only seen it a few times, and he didn't own any He-Man Masters of the Universe action figures. I don't know what kid in 1985 didn't own at least one He-Man action figure. Well, I do know as a kid I wouldn't have wanted to be friends with. What did Nathan's friends have to say about him winning the contest and designing the next Masters of the Universe action figure? Nathan's teammate on his soccer team, Brian Sweeney, had this to say about Nathan. He was thanking everyone. I have no idea why. I don't think he even knew what he was talking about. And next door to Nathan lived Brian Wise, who had this to say about Nathan's winning. He was more excited when he was one of the finalists, and Nathan always knew he would win. So that's it. Nathan got a $100,000 scholarship. He got to be the Mattel Toy President of the Day. I would have made some great changes at Mattel if I won that one. And the character he designed became a vintage He-Man Masters of the Universe action. Wait a second. No. Mattel never made the figure as promised. As toy sales were starting to dry up for the Masters of the Universe line, the line was canceled by Mattel before Nathan's figure could be made. But don't worry, this story has a happy ending. In 2011, for its 30th anniversary, Mattel did release the figure that Nathan designed. Fearless Photog was released as part of the Masters of the Universe Classic Series line. Mattel, I hope you sent that kid one free. After all, he had to wait almost 30 years to get this figure. Anyway, that's a look at the Mattel's Create a Character contest from 1985. And today we're going to talk about... Let's talk about the 1986 Masters of the Universe playset that upset parents. Welcome back to the Junk Room, everybody. It's me, the Junkman, coming back at you with a new video. That's right, it's time for another video. What are we going to talk about today? Well, the 1986 He-Man Masters of the Universe playset, the Slime Pit, that upset parents. Before we get into what got parents so angry, I want to remind you, JunkmanMerch.com to get you a cool t-shirt like this one, or this new He-Man shirt that's on sale right now for only $13. If you're watching the video the day this was uploaded, if you're watching this years later, I don't know how much it's going to be, but go see. And don't forget, Patreon. YouTube members get exclusive content and videos early, like this one. You might be watching this video early right now if you're a member. If you're not a member, you're saying, damn, I could have already found out about the slime pit. Well, let's tell you about the slime pit right now. This slime pit was released in 1986 as part of the Evil Horde collection. If you don't remember, if you were getting out of He-Man by this time in 86, they brought on a whole new set of bad guys. I guess they were more evil than Skeletor's crew. Not really sure why you needed two bad guys, but so in 1986, Mattel released a whole line of new bad guys under the header Evil Horde, led by Hordak. I remember getting this figure line. This is probably, I still bought the Evil Horde figures. Well, I didn't buy them. Somebody bought them for me because I was a kid, but I was probably getting way out of action figures at this time, but still hanging on. Remember that when you were too old for action figures, but you were still hanging on. You didn't want to admit you were too old for action figures. That was until you got about 2021. And then you were back in the store buying action figures again, but this time you were a mature collector. Anyway, let's get back talking about why parents were upset. Mattel released this playset in 1986, and what it was a skeleton or a skull of a dinosaur-like creature that had claws. That you would put the figure in the playset, the claws would hold it in, the skull would open up. You would take this slime, these slime that you find in bubblegum machines back then. Kids today are all over YouTube making slime. You pour it in top, close the skeleton head, put the figure in, have it all closed up, and then you pretend like the action figure says, I don't know. And then you have the slime fall over the creature. A great fun playset. And I know what you're thinking. You're saying, well, I know why parents were upset at this. That slime would get all over the place. It would ruin the carpet, the hardwood floor. It would get in Timmy Thompson's little sister's hair. You can see where parents were upset. No, that's not the reason parents were upset. So you're thinking, okay, Junkman, I know why parents were upset. It's because little boys would buy this, see that kid on the box with the ugly haircut, and want a haircut just like him. I can understand parents being upset by that. I would be also, but no, that's not the reason. That's not the reason either. So why were parents upset at this playset? Wait a minute. I know this is considered a playset, but is it really a playset? I mean, all you do is put a figure in it and have slime cover its body. And what would happen? Well, according to the Masters universe, when the slime got on, they were mindless zombie slime monsters that would do whatever the evil Hordak told them to do. So to me, it's more like a torture chamber. It's more like a weapon than a playset. Am I right? Anyway, let's get back to talking this story. Kids would get the playset, play with it, line their figures up one after the other, would get into the chamber and get slimed. Well, not all of them. It came with instructions to warn you. Don't slime all the figures. Moss Man, Skeletor's cat, I don't even know if it would fit in there, but don't put the slime on the ones that had the fur on it or some other figures, or you might damage it. So kids will line up the figures that were okay to put in the slime pit and slime away. And over time, the slime would get dirty or wouldn't just stick to the figure good anymore. So Dad would send Mom out to the toy store to pick up some more slime. At the toy store, she would find out there was no slime. Well, there was slime at the store, but you had to buy 2 figures to get the free slime. 2 figures, which run you probably about $10 for this free can of slime, when the playset itself cost about $10. Parents were outraged, but after all, this was an old gimmick. It's like, hey, we'll sell them a razor really cheap and have them come back week after week to buy more razors. Clever trick, toy company. We're on to what you were doing. But parents were not happy. They were upset. The only good thing was that these cans of slime were at the store. You didn't have to mail off for them. So little Timmy Thompson didn't have to wait 8 weeks. The mails were really slow back then to get the free slime to go back to his playset. But parents didn't like the thought of having to buy 2 action figures each time they needed a new can of this slime. After all, what if little Timmy Thompson had all the figures? You had to just buy figures you didn't need just to get this slime again? I guess you could rebuy the playset, but what parents is going to pay $10 for a playset you already have? Or maybe you can call it a torture chamber, but I guess that wouldn't be marketed well to kids. Now you're thinking, that's crazy, 2 figures for this slime? Well, Mattel's director of marketing at the time, David Capper, his whole plan was to make it 3 or 4 figures to get the free slime. And if all this wasn't bad enough, damn retailers, they just made it worse. Retailers were sent this free case of slime and a little display box to put them in. And the cans were marked clearly, not for retail. These were just to be given away when little Timmy Thompson bought the 2 figures. He could get the slime that day. But you know retailers, what do? Slap the price tag on it, anywhere between $3 to $10. That's right, retailers got these cans for free and were trying to make a profit off of them. 100% profit at that. So you can see why parents were upset. They paid $10 for this playset. Little Timmy Thompson played with it for a couple months. They go out to buy more slime, which should be pretty easy to get, and they find out either they have to pay for it at almost the same price they paid for the playset, or they have to buy 2 figures, which comes out to about the same price for the figure, or at least pay $2 for what was a free promotional item. But really, what was Mattel to do? If they sold the slime itself at retail stores, they run the chance of kids just buying the $2 slime to pour over their figures at home, making their own playset with it. I guess the best solution would have some kind of mail-in form inside the playset box so you can mail in and get a free one shipped to you. You could go ahead and fill that out, have it already on the way when you first started playing with your slime. I think that probably would have been the best solution. But Mattel knew, just wait it out. Give it about 6 months to a year. Kids have moved on from the playset. They're not going to care about the slime. They're not going to be crying, "Mommy, I need more slime." And it's all going to be forgotten. That playset's going to be shoved into a closet somewhere, and they can move on to the next toy. So although parents were upset, kids were crying, retail stores were making a profit, and Mattel was just sitting back, waiting for the next thing. Of course, this was 1986. By 1987, kids moved on from He-Man. Well, that's a look at why parents got upset at the Slime Pit toy. Did you have this when you were a kid in the 80s? Did your parents get upset that you couldn't get more slime? Or did they just go out and buy you 2 more figures to get you more slime? It's time, guys, to go back to the 80s and look at He-Man merchandise. I know I already said that and everything, but some of this you might have had as a kid and forgot you had. That's something I always like with these videos. I like to make somebody say, "Oh man, I forgot I had that. Thank you, Junkman." So maybe you've seen some of this stuff before. Maybe I've talked about them before. But hopefully there's a lot in here that you didn't know, because I found so much stuff that I just had to stop looking. I found so much stuff. A lot of I didn't never seen before. So put on your skull face. Let's dig into it.
All over America, kids are rushing to brush their teeth. And it's not the toothpaste, it's new toothpaste toppers by Color Forms. Exciting characters your kids love fit onto any toothpaste tube. Just squeeze. It reseals itself. No mess, no drying out, no lost toothpaste caps. Get toothpaste toppers of He-Man, Skeletor, Rainbow Bright, and Twink. All reusable. And so much fun, kids can't wait to brush their teeth, right?
Right.
Okay, kids, hold them up to the camera and let's hear it for...
Toothpaste toppers!
For the top of the tube, they're tops by Color Forms.
And we're going to start right here with a toy box. Yeah, you want to put your toys in a box, or maybe your dirty clothes. There you go, right there. These were always good to have because your mom said clean up your room. You just take everything on the floor and throw it in this box. It'd be really good, and it's made out of wood. Oh, watch out, you might get a splinter. Then we have a pop bag. Pop bag. You pop it with your fist. A bop bag. Some of y'all get mad when I call it a pop bag. But there it is. A kind of little looking He-Man, I'll be honest with you. Then how about this? What is it? Oh, invitations to a birthday party. Man, I've got some invitations to birthday parties in the past, but I never got one that was He-Man themed. That would have been awesome. 8! They knew whoever got this didn't have many friends. I just put 8 in it. Who's ever having a He-Man party, they ain't got 10 friends. Just put 8 in it. Then we've got, Skeletor on top of a toothpaste. Get your toothpaste, put Skeletor on it. Yeah, you can squeeze Skeletor. Or squeeze the toothpaste till white stuff pops out of Skeletor's head. It's like popping a Skeletor's zit. Oh, that would be a lot of fun right there. And look, made by Color Forms. And how about this? Stamp set. Oh, I just get these. This is something you always get. A little cheap present maybe Annie get somebody who didn't really know you. But I remember stamping these all over the place till I get in trouble. Not this one. I didn't have this one here. But, good Lord, there's some ugly kids. Them wasn't child models. Somebody worked for the company must have brought them. Yeah, let's move on. Them kids are too ugly. I can't stand to look at them. How about this? A ruler and a pencil. A pencil and a ruler. And it looks like it might be a little eraser right there. He-Man, take your He-Man to school. He's like, I can't take the He-Man action figures to school, but you got your He-Man pencil, your pen, your... Might even have a tractor. Is a tractor? I guess it's not a tractor. You don't want a He-Man tractor. Oh, well, that'd be kind of cool to have a He-Man tractor. I'm not going to lie to you. But tractor, you know that thing? I can't believe they let us take it to school. It had a big needle on the end of it. It looked like a weapon. Remember that thing? So you could draw circles? And how about a costume and mask? We're going to look at some more of these. I got another picture coming up a bit out of the box so you can see it better because it just looks a little stranger than this one here. But there it is. Ben Cooper. It was... All of us that grew up in the 70s, 80s, we knew about Ben Cooper. It was Halloween costumes in a cake box. We couldn't wait to Halloween time. And check this out. Light up sword and shield. Man, I would have loved to have this as a kid. I would have loved to have this as a kid. I would have walked around and like I was He-Man. I would have put it up and said, by the power of Grayskull if I had it. And then we've got a clip-on. Talk about getting beat up at school. Man, can you imagine this? They're using the term figure a little loosely. That figure clips on your own back. It's just like a hair beret you put in your hair, but you can clip it on a shirt or something. You guaranteed to get beat up by anybody at school with this thing. First, the He-Man fans are going to beat you up and take it. Second, the bullies are going to laugh at you for having it. Then we got another one right here. Look at this guy's jacket. He's got fur around the collar. It makes me a little triggered because I asked for a leather jacket one year so I could be like Indiana Jones, and I got my leather jacket, and it had fur around the collar. Like Indiana Jones don't have fur around the collar. Ugh, still. But this is the one you hook onto your zipper. A zipper. And another playset. What a light. Look at them cartoons of He-Man and Skeletor. That's not very like the cartoon at all. He-Man weapons. That's all it says right there. It's got the shield and it's got two swords. Okay, that's one for Skeletor. So it wouldn't be just He-Man's weapon. It'd be He-Man and Skeletor. Oh, how about this? A big old He-Man belt, like a wrestling belt. Wait a minute. I thought it was a belt. What is it? Yeah, it's a belt, but it... Voice action playset with talking belt. Operated by pull string. So you put this Castle Grayskull like a watch, and you pull the string and the belt talks. Belt medallion plays 4 different... Sorry guys, I wish I looked into this more. I gotta find out what message this thing plays. That is beyond nerdy right there. And how about some more stamps right there? You got Orko, you got Skeletor, you got Battle Cat. Good, getting some love from Battle Cat. And you got He-Man, but that's Battle Armor He-Man. Ugh, I didn't like that. Then we've got, here's no one to take to school right here. You got, I don't know, some kind of triangle paper. Maybe it's the fold to make footballs with. Remember when you played paper football back in school? Remember that? Ooh, field goal. And got a pen. It's got Tila on it. You know, you'd be like, oh man, all my He-Man stuff. And I'll put Tila on it. Made me look like some kind of freak or something. And then you got, I don't know exactly what these are. Some kind of, I can't read that writing, so you have to tell me in the comments what this is. Some kind of color set, I guess, to color some images, I guess. And look at this. Telltale. It's a book on a cassette. You can listen to the cassette. I used to have records. I didn't ever have cassettes, but there you go. Right there. I guess it's one of them. You'll know it's time to turn the page when He-Man said, what's He-Man famous for saying? I don't know. Whatever He-Man said. Then we've got 6 party favors. These are little puzzles, I believe. It says it's a puzzle, a small puzzle. To me, I thought it was one of those that had a little marble in it. You had to get it in the hole. Oh, I had to get the ball in the hole. I remember those fun days. And how about this? He-Man sunglasses. And look, it's got a dang stupid He-Man head right on the side of it. Just took some generic sunglasses they had laying around the warehouse and stuck a He-Man head on it. This is some stupid merchandise. Then we've got, look at this kid. I've never seen a kid into He-Man so much, so happy. What's wrong with his head? He's got a Frankenstein head. He's really, really excited there. What did he do, design his own shirt? I can't read that writing. But I don't know. I guess you draw what you want, or color it, send it in, they'll put it on a shirt for you, I guess. And how about this? A pencil sharpener. Reminds me of my friend Tony. He put something else in that hole. I ain't going to say what it was, but it didn't get sharp. Pow, zap, Masters Universe pencil sharpener. And if you want to look cool, well, he's probably hard to look cool with a He-Man bike, especially one like this with a plastic square seat, you ain't taking this off no sweet ramps. But look at it. If you're really into He-Man and you were under 10, you might get away with it. He-Man bicycle. And how about a ride-on He-Man big wheel? Wow, I did a whole video about all the crazy big wheels they did back then. I just knew about the regular big wheel and the green machine. Man, I love the green machine. Yeah, there you go. And here's the other costume. Don't it look like a lady He-Man? Be honest, don't it look kind of like a lady He-Man? Or maybe a He-Man in drag. It's just weird looking. I had to bring it up. Here's our alarm clock. Old fashioned, got the bells on it. Ding, 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 ding. And then what else we got? Oh, an eraser. Yep, even He-Man's biggest fan makes a mistake, so you got to erase something right there. But you don't want to erase it because it's going to mess up your He-Man eraser. You're just like, I don't want that. And a puzzle. One of these puzzles for the little dumb kids, you know. Big old pieces only take you about 3 seconds to put together. And another bicycle right there. Look at that one. That seat look like it. Fat kid sit on this one. That seat is breaking. Look at it. I don't know why it's floating in the back. It's just asking to be broke. But there we go. Right there. He-Man bicycle with a big old shield on it. That's pretty darn cool. And here's some foreign releases He-Man backpack. Look at that big square one. I had those big square backpacks. And I don't know what the ugly girl down there is wearing. She got a wear Waldo He-Man shirt, it looks like. And some more school supplies. You got a marker and some little pad and 2 erasers. 2 erasers. And, oh, a Walkman. Or I think it didn't play cassette tapes. I think it just played radio. Could be wrong. Might have played cassette tapes. That's a weird picture, though, of He-Man right there. You walk around listening to your He-Man jingles while you walk around. And, oh, check this out. Cosplaying He-Man. I ain't gonna lie, especially for the 80s. Oh, hell, especially for now. That's a damn looking good Mini Faces costume right there. That is freaking awesome. Then another He-Man bicycle. This one looks a little cooler, maybe. But it's got training wheels on it, so you ain't gonna look too cool with it. Now, are you? And, ooh, how about a backpack with a big rubber head of Skeletor? Now, they did make a He-Man one. We're gonna look at it in a minute, but it'd be cool if you had a He-Man one and your best friend had a Skeletor one. That'd be kind of cool. Again, you had to be real little. After 10, you couldn't get away with that crap. There's the He-Man one. Look at the big head from the action figure. Look like a big rubber head from the action figure, doesn't it? He-Man backpack. Then we have 25-cent eraser tops that go on the top of your pencil, and some little ones right there. This looks like the little card that goes inside the bubblegum machine, and you know you're gonna put your quarter in it, and you're gonna want one of those big heads that go on top of the pencil, but you know you're gonna get that little bitty eraser. You know it's gonna happen. They put all the big heads at the top in the glass, so you think, oh, I'm gonna get one, but you don't. Oh, a He-Man watch. And this guy's proud of it. He's like, oh, what time is it? 1:30. A He-Man kicking Skeletor ass. Then we've got a He-Man. I think this is a radio. A radio. They like making stuff with just He-Man's head on it. What's the deal? Why was everybody into He-Man's head? Then we got, another collectible eraser. I can't really say much else about erasers. I don't know why he's standing in front of, I don't know what the skull, is that a skull chair or something? Oh, here's a pencil bag so you can sneak some more He-Man stuff to school. Put it in your He-Man pencil bag. Oh, a record tote. You can put your little records in there. 45. You ain't putting no albums in here. You ain't putting your Led Zeppelin in this thing. You can just do 45 singles. And we've got a tray, a TV tray. You're like, Mom, fix me some hot dogs and some beanie weenies and put it on my He-Man tray. I'm going to watch a little He-Man cartoon. That would be the life, wouldn't it? Well, that would be the life. Then we've got, here's the He-Man toothpaste top. We looked at Skeletor. There's He-Man. Put him on top. Oh, man, why don't you put these in some kind of order? I thought I did. And what is this? Some kind of He-Man candy. Look at the Skeletor up there. Woo, that is weird. Milk chocolate. Orko. I like Orko. Orko gets a bad rap from people now as an adult. They can't remember how fondly they loved Orko back in the day. And I love the Orko figure. And, a chalkboard. You want to write a message in chalk? Get the He-Man chalkboard. And here's another radio here. This is a cassette tape. This is one plays cassette tape, not a radio. Take along, put your tapes in there, listen to a little He-Man. Looks like Skeletor's working out. Maybe you can take this and do a little workout with it. And here's another Ben Cooper costume. And this one, of course, I don't have to tell you. It's Skeletor. And honestly, look at his lips. Looks like he could use some chapstick. And we've got more, character crayons. Yeah, I can't even tell what characters they are. Look, they're all He-Man. I'm not sure. And another Cooper. I don't know why I put so many. A He-Man lunchbox. Did I have He-Man lunchbox? I think I did. I did a video where I went through every year what lunchbox I had, because you had to get a new lunchbox every year unless you was a square. And I did get one, but I think I had He-Man. I can't remember now. Here's another big old head of He-Man. Oh, man. And it's a bank. You can put your money in He-Man. And check out this stupid thing. He-Man fun costume with mask and hood. Who is this supposed to be? It's not Skeletor. It's not He-Man. I don't know how fun a costume it is. Looks like the Halloween costume you get because it's out, because you waited until October 30th to get it. And there ain't nothing else left. Then we got a slide puzzle. Oh, I hate these slide puzzles. I wasn't good at them. And what is this? I told you there's a lot of shit to get through. He-Man, some kind of little, I don't know what this divider is, and you put it up and color a picture of He-Man. I'm not really sure what this is. Maybe it's got some foreign writing on it. I can't read. I can't hardly read American writing. Then we get, this is awesome. I saw this at an antique shop about 15 years ago, and I wish I bought it. I didn't know where to go. I was in Alabama. I had no way to get it home. This is awesome. It's like a rocking horse, spring rocking horse, but it's Battle Cat. I almost said it was Cringer. I wish it was Cringer, but no, it's Battle Cat. Isn't this awesome? I don't care if I was 16, I would have bought this thing and sat on. This thing looks, imagine sitting this thing in your living room watching He-Man when you're little. Okay, let's move on. Look at one more right here. Another cosplay. Well, not really called meet and greet. Remember they used to do meet and greets at the mall and the toy store and stuff, and you get to meet He-Man and Skeletor, and you was all like, I'm hunting for the 25,000 California Razor treasure hunt. In 1986, the announcement that He-Man and his Masters of the Universe friends would be coming to the big screen excited the young fans of the cartoon series and the toy line. To help build up hype for the film, Mattel introduced a contest. The winner would not only win a box of Masters of the Universe action figures, not only a trip to Disneyland, Universal Studios, and get to visit the Queen Mary, but they would also win a walk-on role in the new movie. What a dream come true for one Masters of the Universe fan. That lucky winner of the contest was 8-year-old Richard Sponder, who entered the contest thanks to an entry form at his local Toys R Us that his mom took him to just to enter the contest. Richard's parents was contacted over phone lines that he was the winner of the contest, but a lot of paperwork and agreements had to be signed off on before it became official. Once all the papers were signed, it was announced that he was the winner of the contest. However, the director of the Masters of the Universe movie had not found a way to work in an 8-year-old kid into the movie. Months went by, a few phone calls here and there with updates. They would set a date for a trip to send him to Los Angeles, only to have that date moved. It seemed it was never going to happen. But finally, the pushback stopped. Richard and his family found themselves in O'Hare Airport in Chicago, headed to the home of the Hollywood stars.
Can you show us the way?
Of course. No.
In California, Richard and his family visited the set where he was shown his costume for the film, a costume that the studio would later send him and he still has today. Also on the set, a mold was taken of his face to make a mask for the character. This wasn't just a throw-on costume for a quick scene. As Richard told the Masters of the Universe movie.com, it would take hours for the makeup artist to attach the mask and get everything ready. But he wasn't alone during this process. In the trailer, right next to him, getting fitted for his makeup and costume, was actor Billy Barty, who played Gwiller in the film. Billy Barty would tell Richard that it would take him 4 hours each day to get his costume ready. Waiting wasn't the only problem, as the adhesive used to attach the mask to his face left Richard feeling like his face was on fire for months. As for being on the now iconic movie set, Richard said his first thought was, it didn't look like Castle Grayskull, a feeling a lot of us kids would feel when we saw the film. He did get to meet most of the cast, even Family Ties co-star Courtney Cox, who Richard said he has no memory of meeting, but he does have pictures of the two together. As for an 8-year-old Master Universe fan, you can kind of see where he would be a lot more excited and remember meeting the memorable characters more so than a somewhat 20-year-old girl who no one really knew at the time. One of the first actors he met was Dolph Lundgren, who played He-Man, who Richard recalls being the most generous out of all the actors he would meet. He would go on to recall that Frank Langella, the actor that plays Skeletor, was also amazing to meet, and he got to meet him in his Skeletor costume. But who was the kindest person to meet on the set? Well, according to Richard, that was Megan Frost, who played the sexy siren Evil Lynn, who just happened to be Richard's favorite Master of the Universe character. Finally, the day came for Richard to film his scene. There he was in full costume, and he would hand Skeletor his staff. It would take a few shots to get the scene right, and Frank would give Richard some advice between takes. Overall, the family was in Los Angeles for 9 days, with much of that time spent on the set and working with a tutor that Richard said looked a lot like John Ritter. Due to legal requirements, he couldn't miss a week of school. It would only take him 1 day to film his scene, and then he was done. Soon Richard and his family were headed back home. Now it was time to see the movie, for Richard to see himself on the big screen. Mattel would purchase an entire block of seats at Richard's local movie theater so that he and his friends and family could have their own premiere. However, Richard's scene was so quick and fast, he admits that he missed even seeing it that night. But he was very excited to see his name at the end of the cast credits, and finally there he learned the name of the character he played, Pig Boy. According to Richard, the scene was to be longer, with Skeletor even shouting at him, "Leave now!" If the scene being cut in the film was bad, what happened to the TV edit was even worse, as the entire scene was cut out when it premiered on television. The movie came and gone, and it seemed people forgot about Pig Boy and the kid that brought him to life thanks to a contest. However, as the internet grew and the Masters of the Universe movie became more of a cult classic, his role in the film also grew, with Richard even having people to ask him for photos. But there's one thing Richard and us He-Man fans never got: an action figure based on Pig Boy. If there was ever a time to finally right this wrong, it's now. With the release of the classic action figures and He-Man figures more popular than ever, it's time for Mattel to finally give Richard and the fans a Pig Boy action figure. After all, they did give us a pig head action figure, but Richard and the fans, we deserve our Pig Boy action figure. If there was one toy line in the 80s as popular as Star Wars, it had to be Mattel's He-Man Masters of the Universe collection. We can all remember those classic figures: He-Man, Skeletor, Beastman, Man-at-Arms, and so many more. However, one figure we almost got was the Evil Robot, first seen in a 1985 catalog showcasing the new Masters of the Universe figures for 1986. According to the catalog, this was a robot owned by Skeletor, but if you look closely you can see the Evil Horde Bat logo on the figure. So it seems most likely he was a robot of Hordak. He was going to be able to throw water from his rifle in his right arm. It seems an Italian toy company used the design for this toy in the early 90s. But this wasn't the only toy from the Masters of the Universe collection. In fact, a spin-off line was planned for 1987. The spin-off to Masters of the Universe was to be called Powers of Grayskull. This was going to take place on Eternia, but thousands of years before He-Man and Old Boneface would fight it out. The main hero was Hero. That's right, Hero. Hero was a young and powerful wizard. His alter ego was the common man known as Gray. By placing one hand on his heart, with his other hand making a fist, and saying the phrase, "Magic and strength tempted my heart, I stand for peace," Gray would transform into Hero of Grayskull. The figure would have came with a power staff that opened up to reveal a magic crystal inside. Hero's mentor was the Old Man Elder, the guardian of the Book of Living Spells. His magic book contained secrets of Grayskull. Also to release was a giant playset dinosaur called Giganosaurus, but little information is known about it. There were 2 oversized action figures and 3 smaller dinosaurs that did get released outside the US. Sadly, we never got the spin-off series Powers of Grayskull. However, a few years ago, Mattel and Super 7 would both release Hero and Eldar action figures. Now we all know that no matter how successful a toy line is, it one day is going to get canceled. In the early 80s, no one could beat Kenner Star Wars toys, but in 1985, they got canceled, like any other toy line. In 1987, Mattel canceled the He-Man line, a line that many of us grew up on in the 80s. But why is that? A lot of people have asked me, and I've asked before, what happened in 1987? In 1986, Mattel had over $400 million in sales for their He-Man line, and then in 1987, that $400 million dropped down to $7 million in sales. There's really no one answer to give you why this toy line failed. There was a lot of different reasons that led to the failure. And let's be honest, this was a successful toy line that lasted for years. Most action figures lines maybe last a year, 2, 3 at the very most. But this line started in 1982 and had a 5-year run. That's a long time in the world of action figures. And unlike something like Star Wars that had a new movie to push it every 3 years, He-Man really didn't have anything else to push it except for the cartoon, which really helped sales in the early days. This cartoon was on every day, and it was like a 30-minute ad to buy He-Man toys. Not only did you get He-Man and Skeletor in the cartoon, it introduced a lot of new characters the kids would run out and want to buy. In 1985, 2 years before the end of the line, that cartoon series was canceled. Now, it did stay in reruns till about 1988, but come on, let's be honest, reruns are not going to push toy sales. So Mattel lost a daily 30-minute ad. That's gotta hurt. Now, I've heard some experts say that the reason the toy line failed is because in 1985 Mattel released She-Ra, a He-Man toy line for girls, and boys didn't want to play with He-Man anymore because their sister liked He-Man, or people from the He-Man universe. This is the most ridiculous reason I've ever heard, and there's been some people that say it. I'm not going to tell you where I heard this at, but I did hear it. So let's try to dig into why this failed in 1987. First, in 1987 there was a financial crash in late 1987. The stock market crashed, and of course that's going to hurt sales of anything. But there's more to it than just having a 30-minute ad on TV every day and the crash of the stock market. One thing that probably really did hurt this is the fan base was getting out of He-Man. Most of the kids that were playing with He-Man started buying him around 1982, 1983. By 1987, these kids were in their mid-teens, had moved on from action figures. And the new kids, well, they were getting into Transformers and other toy lines of that time. Without the cartoon to help sell it to the younger kids, you can see why this toy line was on the decline. And the hottest new toy line that was picking up steam was Transformers. Those He-Man figures seemed like something your brother would play with, but these Transformers, they were more than met the eye. But we can't just blame it on financial crash, no cartoon to help promote the line, or even kids moving on to something else. Mattel made some mistakes also. One thing Mattel did that really hurt the line is they shipped out what they had plenty of inventory on. They shipped out all kinds of figures and very few of He-Man and Skeletor. If you're a new kid wanting to get into the He-Man line, why would you want to start playing with a line if you couldn't find the main villain or the main hero? Made no sense. And when you had all these figures that people really didn't know hid in the store, they sat on the shelves. The main figures would sell, but the other ones would just sit there, and stores started getting worried. This line is dying, they would think. Or they would have to clearance out the stock they had. Either way, it caused stores not to order more. So even kids that still played with He-Man, it was very hard for them to find new figures in late 1986 and 1987. Mattel's marketing director at the time, Mark Ellis, even said this in an interview. He stated that at the beginning of the toy line, Mattel was very careful about the assortment of figures they would put out. But then later in the run, they would just ship out whatever they had a lot of inventory of. This would cause third-tier figures to sit around at stores, taking up retail space, and causing stores to worry that the line was dying and not order new stock. So that's a big problem right there. And then, what could have saved this line was a live-action movie in 1987 that tanked.
At the far end of the universe, there is a planet ruled by a being of utter evil.
If you ask me, the movie is really too late. If they did a He-Man live-action movie around 1984-85, I think it would have been a big hit. But by 1987, kids were starting to get out of He-Man anyway. The cartoon was already gone. But let's be honest, this He-Man cartoon wasn't too good. I mean, it's kind of cheesy fun to watch now, but at the time, it was horrible. And if you were a fan of the He-Man cartoon or even the comic books, this wasn't the movie you were hoping for. I mean, come on. He-Man was on Earth. And there was no Orko. No Orko. That's all you have to know right there. So this movie bombed. So it really didn't help push kids into collecting He-Man toys. And in 1987, you had something that was dominating toy stores that wasn't action figure based.
What will the future bring from Nintendo?
The Nintendo Entertainment System was released in 1985, but by 1987 it was a dominating force in the toy industry. A lot of kids were putting down plastic toys and picking up a plastic controller. So that's a lot of factors. First, The cartoon series was gone, so you didn't have it to help promote the line. You had Mattel screw up and sending too much of their inventory of figures no one cared about to stores, making stores think, hey, nobody cares about this toy line anymore. Kids couldn't find He-Man and Skeletor. I mean, let's be honest, if you were just getting into this toy line, how could you buy Fisto and some of the new figures if you didn't have Skeletor or He-Man? And then, of course, you had the financial crash of 1987. You had the failed movie that didn't help any at all. You had the kids that grew up on He-Man getting too old for toys. You had Transformers peaking in sales. And you had Nintendo competing with kids playing with action figures. All of this was a perfect storm that spelled the end of the He-Man Masters of the Universe line. Again, this line ran for 5 years. You can't feel sorry for this line, and it's still popular today. And like I said earlier, toy lines usually last a year, 2, 3 at the most. So to get a 5-year run out of this toy line, Mattel has to be happy. Can't look at this as a failure. As they say, all good things must come to an end. Today we're going to talk about the other live-action He-Man, the one that hit stages before Master of the Universe movie in 1987. We all remember that movie released by Canon Films. One thing, it came a few years too late. Sales of the toy line was already on a rapid decline. No, it had nothing to do with because boys didn't want to buy toys that their sister had, She-Ra, or whatever the rumor is. Did a whole video on that. As I said, the movie came a little too late, and let's be honest, it just wasn't good. And for kids that grew up on the cartoon, or maybe reading the comics, it just didn't feel like He-Man. It didn't fit with the story that we all knew for years before. But in 1986, there was a whole different live-action He-Man roaming across America. And by 1987, it had made its way to New York City. There it sold out 18 days in a row, a record that still, today, hasn't been beaten.
From the far reaches of the universe to Radio City Music Hall, the magic and fantasy come to life in the ultimate family adventure. The Masters of the Universe Power Tour. See He-Man and She-Ra meet the forces of Skeletor and Horda. Will Grim prevail? See the exciting jet skate competition. See the spectacular Eternian Circus theatrical celebration. Opening live at Radio City Music Hall February 12th. The Masters of the Universe.
Not only was He-Man on stage in live form, so was all his friends and villains. You had He-Man, of course. You had Skeletor, Beastman, Man-at-Arms, Orko with legs. And of course you had She-Ra, Evil Lyn, and a lot more. And it wasn't just the live-action characters. Nope, Castle Grayskull was on stage, parts of Eternia, and so much more from the planet we all loved as kids. Now this is the part of the video where I tell you the whole story, but it's kind of hard to follow. I mean, you've got a lot going on. You got heroes and villains rolling around on skates. You got a new character with a guitar. I'll just try to go over it best I can. The show will start using a video screen to introduce the character, and then each character would appear on stage, coming out of some dragon thing and smoke. I'm not really sure about that. And of course, the last one to appear on stage was He-Man, and the crowd would go crazy.
May I present to you now the most powerful man in the universe. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, He-Man!
Then He-Man and his sister She-Ra, they would banter back and forth, make jokes, something about Beastman having to wear skates and he wasn't happy about it. And then Man-at-Arms would do the national anthem. No, not the American national anthem, Eternia national anthem.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you all please stand up and join He-Man and She-Ra as they lead us in our Eternian national anthem.
And then we will meet Songster, the new character of the show. He does a little song, then goes into the backstory of the world of He-Man. Now I'll try to get this right here. Again, this was kind of hard to follow. I read some different blogs of people that went there and saw it, read some more things about the story, but it's just not easy to explain in a video. Apparently, Hordak went back in time, or maybe he's really old, and he talked to some of the ancient people of Eternia. There he told them that in centuries later, he was going to do some villainous deeds. And the guys there, I guess they didn't believe him. They said, haha, what are you talking about? You'll be dead a century from now. You're ugly, get out of here. They didn't take him seriously. And then, centuries later, he kidnapped Adoria. That was until He-Man was able to save her from not just Hordak, but even from Skeletor. And then He-Man and Adoria, they fight each other, but then the sorceress appears on a video screen on the stage and lets him know that she has royal blood and that she is the sister of He-Man. Or something like that.
He-Man, do not harm her. She is of royal blood. The daughter of Rambo and your own true sister, Dora.
So she accepts that she has royal blood and their true identity is She-Ra.
How did you get here? Show yourself.
Where I am is of no consequence. But I warn you, I am very close. She-Ra, come now, listen to me, you muscular mass of virtue.
And then we get into the first act where Skeletor and his evil warriors have arrived. For some reason, Skeletor and his evil warriors, they get into a conflict with He-Man and the good guys. And instead of fighting it out with swords or fists, they decide to have a skating competition. I'm not really sure who judged the skating competition or who decided who won and who didn't. I know the ninja-like character, he got kicked out of the contest because he had weapons. Apparently you can't bring your swords in the skating competition. And then Evil Lynn does a skating that's kind of like Walk Like the Egyptian, you know, the Walk Like an Egyptian or whatever it was. Remember that? She skates like that. This is going to be a hard video to get through, guys.
We will win the race today for the glory of Skeletor and Snake Mountain.
Second forward.
After Act 1, during the intermission, we hear Skeletor berating Beastman.
For my stupid, sniveling, skating, little imbecilic army has failed me miserably.
Oh, isn't verbal abuse funny? And then to start the second act, Skeletor appears on a video screen, declaring he is now in control. I guess he won the skating competition. Again, I'm not really sure who got the judges thing. Maybe it was the sorceress, but you think she would just give it to He-Man and his people because she knows they're good? I don't know. I shouldn't look that much into the story. Skeletor forbids the audience to have any interaction with He-Man. And of course, this sets off a chain reactions of little kids screaming, boo, boo, in the audience. I should have talked about it earlier. It seems that you probably had to buy them, but some of the kids in the audience had the power sword, and they all got to raise their sword. I'm sure the sword wasn't free. They got to raise the sword up and pledge their allegiance to He-Man and Eternia and help them fight Skeletor and Hordak. So here, He-Man, Skeletor says they can't do that. They're not allowed to, interact with He-Man anymore, and the kids get all mad, boo, and stand up and scream and shake their swords at Skeletor. But don't worry, He-Man and his friends did have a plan to take back control. But it seems He-Man's plan just didn't work out. They all got captured, they were about to get killed, or I don't know what was going to happen to them, but apparently Skeletor got them all, and it looked like certain doom, but then all of a sudden, She-Ra appears on top of Castle Grayskull behind this big laser cannon. She-Ra saves the day. She fires the cannon, causing the evil villains to run off, and freeing He-Man and the gang. To celebrate, She-Ra skates around the stage and sings a song. They all go off stage, and then they come back out, but now they're all friendly and they're out of character, but they're still in character, but they're not in fighting character, but they're still He-Man and Skeletor and stuff, but they're meeting the audience, they're shaking hands, and the kids are having a good time. Now, I'm not going to tell you this is worse than the live-action movie. I doubt it. But it sounds pretty bad. But I think if you were a kid growing up in the 80s, if you were really young and you went to see this thing, I think you would have enjoyed it. They made the characters look a lot like the toys, so that probably excited the kids that did have the toy line. Orak had legs, but I guess there was no way around it back then. Most of the dialogue's all ad-dubbed, so they're just speaking over a recording. Overall, I guess if you were a kid, this was okay. If you went to see it when you were 27 years old by yourself, it probably wasn't all that good. And if it was good, you probably have a lot of other issues you need to work out. Anyway, do you remember the Power Tour in 1986-87? Did you go to it? Were you excited? Like the movie, this seemed to come out a little too late. And we should have had a live-action tour and, of course, a He-Man movie around 1984, 1985, right at the hype of the He-Man craze. Well, who knows? He-Man toys are still in stores today. Keep hearing rumors about a He-Man movie, and then we have 2 He-Man cartoons coming to Netflix. So maybe there's hope we'll finally get that kick-ass He-Man movie that we all dreamed of as a kid.
Hey, Junkman channel popping though.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.
I'll be back.